Sena 50 series versus Cardo's Packtalk Bold, the battle of the titans, the war of the colossi. We are going to test them to the point of exhaustion. Mine, not theirs, obviously.
I'm gonna twist you, and I'm gonna flip you.
What's the matter with you?
Wrap your body till your bones hurt.
Range tests, noise tests, speaker test, and figure out if Sena is back in the game with the 50 series, because I really wasn't a fan of the 30K. Stick around. Both of these systems were sent to me by their respective companies, so I'm not biased towards any side. Both of them are over $300, so I am considering them high-end systems from which I expect a good amount of quality and polish. If I'm using a motorcycle intercom system, I want it to be invisible. I want to concentrate on the motorcycling part of motorcycling and not sit around and fumble with tech systems, buttons, and so on. On paper, both of these systems are almost identical with a few differences. Battery life is about the same at around 13 hours, although on the Sena, the bugs which have plagued their previous generations, like getting the low battery voice prompt only a few minutes before the battery dies, seem to have made it to the 50 series as well. Both offer stable mesh connectivity, with Sena implementing a great feature called Open Mesh, where the unit will automatically connect with other units when they are in range, supporting a theoretical unlimited number of participants. With the introduction of Sena's new speakers, both offer great quality sound with amazing bass response, and even though I still think Cardo's JBL speakers are better quality, still that gap has closed tremendously. But on paper is not why we are here, so let's do a few tests. Range test. Packtalk claims a mesh range of 1.6 kilometers in open terrain, and Sena claims 2 kilometers. Both of these seem misleading, since any comm system I have ever used dropped out once the other rider wasn't in line of sight anymore, so a real world range test was needed. Both units were tested from the same spot, with the helmet oriented in the same position. Even if not being the ideal setup for maximum range, it emulated real-world situations where there would be obstacles like vehicles in between the two riders. After about 400 to 500 meters, the Sena started cutting out, and after about 700 to 800 meters, it would disconnect, reconnecting automatically when it came back in range. As for the Packtalk Bold, the real range seemed to be smaller than the Sena, with the unit experiencing interruptions after about 300 to 400 meters. This could be the result of Sena using the Bluetooth 5.0 standard, while the Packtalk Bold is still stuck in Bluetooth 4.1 world, which has a smaller range. At the same time, since both of these units use the mesh system for communicating, the range is only relevant from one rider to the closest other rider to him. For both systems, the group can be spread out as far as 8 kilometers, as long as there are enough riders to jump the signal from one to the other. As a curiosity, I then lifted the helmet off of the ground and redid the test. This seemed to have increased the range by a further 100 meters or so, obviously your mileage will vary, but I cannot see how you can get the advertised 2 kilometers or 1.6 kilometers out of any of these systems. Wind noise test. If you ride with a flip-up modular helmet, wind noise is the bane of all intercom systems. Hearing the wind from outside your helmet and from the speakers inside is really going to ruin your intercomming experience. Since both systems turn down the music volume when you're actually talking to your buddies, the idea of this test was to connect the units in mesh mode, play music on one, stick the mic out the window on the other one, and listen to the result. First up was the Sena. The moment the mic went out the window, the music volume lowered and the gracious sound of the wind came through. problem is that even after a while, the device didn't recognize this as a wind noise pattern and not a voice pattern and actually ignore it. It just kept sending it through to the other unit. I tested this at different speeds and it made no difference. In Cardo World, however, the unit did initially send the wind noise through to the other helmet, but after a couple of seconds, it realized that this was not a human voice, but actually wind, stopped sending it through, and the music returned to a normal volume. The interesting part here was during my range test when I had the phone playing music in the other helmet and I had to try about 10 different tracks because after a few seconds it would treat the music the same as any other noise that isn't actually a voice, which is correct since music is music and voice is voice. Cardo's noise cancellation algorithm seems to be worlds beyond that of what Sena is using, and especially if you are using a flip-up helmet, this is very important. So, which one is best for you? Can't tell you that. I can only tell you which one is best for me, and at the moment, it's still hands down the Packtalk Bold. Firstly, because without it, I would be unable to use the intercom feature because of Sena's noise cancelling issue. Secondly, because the Cardo is waterproof and the Sena is not. This is a big thing to a lot of people when riding motorcycles and spending $300 on a comm unit, and considering that the 50R cannot be removed from the helmet when it starts raining, this is a big no-no. Thirdly, because at least for me, the voice commands on the Cardo just worked better, and I've already forgotten what any of the buttons do on it, so the voice commands and the app are the only ways that I interact with the device. And lastly, I feel like Sena has played a catch-up game when it comes to their 50 series, improving some functionality, adding new and better functionality like the open mesh system and that amazing Wi-Fi charging dongle, but at the same time, bringing some of the same bugs which have plagued their devices for generations, like the ambient mode which still doesn't work in the real world, and that lack of quality control is unacceptable in a flagship device. However, unfortunately, the decision at the end of the day will be made according to what your friends that you want to talk to already have, because in mesh modes, the units don't connect to each other. This brings me to my biggest gripe with both of these systems, which is truly splitting up the community in two. Both of you, Sena and Cardo, have great mesh systems. You've obviously worked on your routing algorithms a lot. Sena, well done for open mesh, which is helping people make new friends at gas stations every day, but you are making people choose between the two systems based on what their friends already have and not on the merits of the device itself. Why can't you get together in a room and come up with an open source mesh algorithm where a Cardo unit will connect without any fuss to a Sena unit in mesh mode? You're market leaders when it comes to intercom systems. If you're not gonna do it, who is? Otherwise, people are just going to become friends based on what comm systems they have and not based on the color of their bikes like they do now. Come on, make love, not war. Alright, that's enough comparing for one day. If you want to see the detailed reviews for both of these systems, the links are in the description, check them out. I know both Sena and Cardo will be watching this video because I will be sending it to them. Hi mom! So go down to the comments section and put your suggestions there. I'm sure they would love to read them. Be gentle. Well, that's the show for today, everyone. If you've enjoyed it, give it a big thumbs up, and if you think you've learned something new, consider subscribing or becoming one of our patrons to help us make more of these shows. Cheers, and I'll see you on the next one.